Hello. Let's see. It's 1st of May. Is that May? January, February, March, April, May. Yes. Um, in the background, you may be able to see on that computer. I disconnected the Dell computer in the background. It's over on the floor. Let's see. Oops. It's right. I think it's on the floor right there. And I hooked up the, what is it? Let's see, where is it? I forget the name of it. Anyway, a USB drive that USB stick that must have about 15 different things on it that you can, install by putting it in your, USB drive and then, booting up into it, and then you can install. I installed the new version of Ubuntu for just a little bit, and then I have installed Linux Mint on it, and I haven't got the sound working yet. Well, there's a whole bunch to do, so what else? I don't have it hasn't recognized my camera yet. Anyway, be a bunch of work to do. And I guess you could probably be wondering how long will Jim leave, how long will he be doing that? My last video, which was about 45 minutes, so far I've only got one comment, and about it. It was political. A whole bunch of it was political. Well, I don't think it was political because a bunch of it was about guns and the problems that we have here in the United States and all that type of stuff. But about 60%, I forget the exact number, I think about 60% of the American people, including Republicans and including gun owners and members of the NRA, and everybody, they agree that they want, a better background check, done, and they want some restrictions on guns and things like that. And I'm not sure if it's as high as 60%, but a whole bunch of those people also don't want all these assault rifles, all these military type, of weapons. So there's really a consensus in the United States of, Democrats and people from the other side. But the other side is pretty good at, riling up their base and muddying the situation or whatever. So I'm not sure when it's going to happen that there'll be some movement for an improvement. Now, it's not going to stop all the shootings. It's not going to stop a lot of things, because when you have that many weapons out there, there's a lot of people who have, mental problems. There's a lot of people who have, well, I'd call those mental problems too, but, have things of, hate and, nobody's going to tell me, what to do, and this is my property, and you can't trespass on my property, and you can't turn around in my driveway, and there's just so many people that it's not going to be like Australia. Australia had guns, and they had a massive shooting down there. I forget the details of it, but it was quite a few years ago. It was a massive shooting with a lot. I mean, it was an American type of shooting. And the Australian government said, okay, that's it, gun control is going into effect, and they put it into effect. They haven't had a mass shooting since, which is amazing. Even if somehow we could put some really strict types of gun control here in the United States, which we won't be able to do. But even if we could do that, it wouldn't be like Australia. These people here that have guns, and I had, well, let me see, I had a couple friends that I worked with who, I mean, nice people. One was RN, a male RN, and he was, he had his guns, and nobody was going to take his guns away from him. And the other guy was a nice guy, had a nice wife, little baby, and he was buying containers to bury his guns and ammunition, out there. And so the United States has a major, major problem, and there's no easy solution to it. Now they talk about when President Clinton was president, he got some gun laws passed. And they, of course, the right wing and the gun people are just, they mentioned that, they bring that up, that, but it was totally insignificant, in my opinion. I just happened to be, I've only been to I think I've only been to 2 gun shows. And I just happened to be in Overland Park, Kansas, when the Clinton gun ban went into effect. And the gun ban was, okay, now if I say assault rifles, they're going to, all you people that are going to say, it's not an assault rifle and this is a whatever, that's, I despise you people more for doing that type of stuff, for saying that type of stuff. I'm calling them an assault rifle. You call them what you want to call them. But it was, went into effect for a few years, and of course it was going to be, I forget how many years, then it would automatically expire unless Congress kept it. And of course Congress wasn't going to keep it. It was amazing that it got passed. But no assault rifle, could be sold, except, and I forget what the exception was, but the tables were loaded with that thing that I went to with assault rifles. And I forget I forget what the thing is, but, I hate these fucking people. If you're one of them, please go to somebody else's website. There'll be a mass shooting someplace, and these military type weapons that just, pour out the ammunition. When these children are killed by these rounds from an assault rifle, if there are a bunch of them, maybe if there was just 7 kids killed, maybe you could figure out who the kids were. But what these assault rifles, if you have a large school, and they have to do DNA before the parents will know, which kids are there so they can be buried. That's how bad it is. But then also with clips, it was also that clips, I forget what it was. I think the same thing applied to handgun clips. It wasn't just assault rifle clips. I think, let's see, because my Smith & Wesson .40 caliber held 11 rounds, and I think 10 rounds was the the max. I think it was 10 round clips. But the law as written was that only applied to new clips. And the tables were loaded with, because there's just tons of these, clips from military type weapons or whatever, and they were being sold, Now, because mine was a Smith & Wesson and .40 caliber, what I carried, I had, there was one clip, in the gun, and I loaded in 11 rounds. Then I would chamber one, and then I'd put another round in, drop the clip, and then put another round, in there and put it up, and that gave me 12 rounds. And then my other two clips were 11 rounds. But I was a police officer, so I could purchase, clips larger than 10 rounds or whatever. But that was not, that wasn't it wasn't gun control. That wasn't, and the whole thing was just. But at the gun show that I went to in Orlando, Overland Park, Kansas, on that day, and there were, by the way, pictures of the president up as targets. So President Clinton's picture was up, and it was targets that people were selling. And that type of, the entire craziness, the insanity, the rage, the hatred, and everything. But the American people, if they could vote, if the bills would come up, if they'd be in, the various states and federal or whatever, if they would, if the American people, even members of the National Rifle Association. By the way, I was a member of the National Rifle Association for years, until they started going crazy. And I actually saw it, the magazine, would come, and I would read it from, front to back. I'd read all the ads and everything else. And I loved it. And the NRA, National Rifle Association, they did good work in the past. And I actually was, I just happened to come of age or whatever. The National Rifle Association, did training on hunting, seminars and things on like hunting and how to hunt and gun safety, marksmanship, and a whole bunch of things for years. And then I just happened to be, I was a member. I had a couple rifles is all I had at that point. I was just out of high school or whatever. But I think I just had 2 rifles. I had a nice gun case, and there was room for some more, but I just had 2 at that time. Other magazines, gun magazines, and like hunting magazines at that time, and the NRA was being, responsible. They weren't being as crazy as and as political. They maybe always were political, but they were okay. I was just reading the magazine, And other magazines, Out for a Buck or whatever, they started running like full page, and they'd have something of their own, donate to save, our guns are going to be taken away from us, And nobody was trying to, they haven't done it yet. This was what, I'm 80, and this was back when I was like 20 years old. Nobody's taken their guns away yet, but that's the thing they use, that the Democrats are going to take your guns away. But these other magazines started running things, like that, and set up some organization, donate to the whatever, to protect your gun rights because they're going to take away. And then I guess probably the National Rifle Association probably started maybe seeing a drop in their membership, or if not a drop in their membership, maybe fewer people were becoming, whatever they call it, where you pay a large amount of money and then you're a member for life. I guess they call it a life member or something like that. Maybe fewer people were doing that or something. And so then all of a sudden, the American Rifleman or whatever magazine of the NRA, then I started seeing these like editorials, and then I started seeing these like stories in there, and then it was like, oh my God, it'd be, Grandma Moses, was the sole caretaker of her 11 granddaughters, all of them, little cute girls, oh, beautiful little cute girls. And she lived on the farm, Grandma Moses did, and a gang of black youth, they came to her farm to take and ravage her white granddaughters, and she took her shotgun and she killed, all 7 of the, black young men coming to take her. It was sort of like that. I might have exaggerated just a little bit. And that was the things that they started running. And then they started running, stories, little clips of, Bill Brown worked at a 7-Eleven in the inner city. And a guy came in and stole something, and ran. But Bill Brown had his gun and he stopped him from, and it was just stuff like that. And then finally, what for me was, I loved it, got the issue of the American Ryan. There was a story, guy at a 7-Eleven or a Quick Trip store or whatever, and no, that was in the paper. Okay, no, they had the story, in the story, those kind of stories in there, and somebody with he had an assault rifle and he stopped something from happening. Oh, this guy here did such and such, and then back then newspapers, actually had a newspaper, and there were 3 things that happened, like in that. I guess I just got my magazine, and there were 3 things that happened. A guy at a convenience store that worked there, 7-Eleven. It was in the inner city, I worked in the inner city, by the way. I lived in the inner city for, whatever. We were one of the last white families to move out of that area. But anyway, this guy at the convenience store, a guy came in who was a homeless person and an alcoholic and maybe a drug user. He came in and he grabbed, I forget what it was, a 6-pack of beer or something like that. And then he ran from the store. And the guy working at the store, grabbed his gun, went out and shot at the guy and killed him. Now, the guy was getting into trouble because the laws were a little bit different back then, The guy who shot, you couldn't kill somebody especially somebody if that was running away from you, even if they grabbed your whatever, and then the other one was, what was the other one? I think it was an accidental shooting. And then there was another, something like that. And so I had my, you know, NRA magazine that I loved so much. And then there was the truth, in the newspapers or whatever. So I didn't cancel my membership, but I had made up my mind when it came, because I was still wanted to read it, I didn't cancel it, but I continued to read it till my membership expired, and then of course I couldn't renew because I just knew this was bullshit, And now it's gone way, now it's gone. The laws have uh, have changed big time. Uh, the thing on guns and robbery and all that type of stuff comes to us from UK, England's common law, and the common law was, and that was like what was adopted here in the United States, and used, was that you couldn't kill somebody. Well, of course they did some they did some shit back in I don't know 1500s, 1400s in the UK. If you they had some stuff back then. I don't think they were following maybe the common law adapted after that, because there was like a guillotining and all kinds of, I think they were crushing their heads, all kinds of stuff going on if you messed with their livelihood or something. But the law that was passed on, that became passed on and adopted here nationwide, was you couldn't kill somebody for trying to kill you or trying to molest your wife or kidnap your kid, but the law was that you couldn't kill somebody for stealing your cell phone or whatever it was, no matter what it cost. But that all changed, and I've told this story before. I'll make it real quick. When I came to Texas back quite a few years ago, then I left Texas, and then I came back, and I left again, and then I came back. God help me. But anyway, it was the kids and I were out walking, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, in a nice neighborhood. It was Hillary, not my oldest, but Hillary, my daughter, had a nice house. And going down the street, and all the parking spots were filled in front of the places, but there was one space that was open. And we're walking down the street, and I see that the space is open, and there's a suitcase sitting there, and the porch light's on of the house. This wasn't a drive. This was a house right there in the street, sidewalk in the street. And I thought, okay, somebody maybe going to the airport or something. And they came down, and forgot to load a suitcase or something that's right there, and somebody's going to steal it, And I thought, I ought to go up and set it on the porch. Just set it on that porch. Nope. I told the kids. I told the kid, nope. The owner could shoot you for, doing that, or just going up and knocking on his door, at that late at 11 o'clock at night or something like that. If you knocked on the door and you said, hey, is this your suitcase or something like that, he could shoot you. I just walked on, left it sitting there by the curb. I hope whoever lost it or whatever the situation was, maybe they were taking it all of them inside. Maybe the next morning when they woke up, they looked out and saw, we didn't take that one in. Maybe the reason there was a vacant spot was because there was a car in there and then the car had left or whatever. No, you have to be really vigilant, and you have to be really, really careful. And like this one here in Texas, this case of, let's see. Well, anyway, I talked about that I think before. Uh, what I don't know. I think in a way, with the American people have, when you have like whatever the number is, somebody will probably correct me with the correct number. Now, don't get the correct number. Don't get the correct number from Fox News. Fox News lies about everything. But there have been many, polls done, and the American people strongly want better background checks. When they went to the background checks years ago, I raved and ranted on YouTube. I think if it wasn't YouTube, then it was on my WordPress site or whatever. I've been back when I started my bulletin board system in 1982. There was I mentioned this before, 7 or 8 or 10 topics that people could comment on and vote. And it was the same ones, birth control, gun control, what else? What are the others? The ones, and what I found was, one of them that I added was, and when by the way, for me, for you, if you're an American, maybe. I don't think there's many people who could do what I did then. I'm not sure I could do it now. But I wrote the piece for, the reason to not allow abortions. And then I wrote the other opinion. And I mean, I had to go and look up to get some good points, and there was pro and con. No, well, when I added the category on best hamburgers, some of the people changed their opinion. Oh, I've never tried what's the ones that are little tiny? I can't remember. They're good, by the way. But we didn't have any in Kansas City at that time. But on that, a few people changed their mind on gun control, abortion. What were the others? Can't remember now. But on those, no one ever changed their opinion. But still, it didn't. I guess it hadn't sunk in, because then when the World Wide Web was invented, and then I moved Howard's notebook from running, as a bulletin board system to whatever, I thought, oh, okay, now there's all this information here. I don't need to try to cover both sides and get people, I can just, and what do we all know now what happened? No. People were and are, they're just going to, okay, I think I'll check the news. Well, I'll go check Fox News. Whoop, what? And let's see. And like I mentioned before on several occasions, in fact, it was one of the guys I just mentioned or whatever. He was a big computer person, except he started out being an Apple person, and I was a PC person, And but anyway, we had a real good rapport and everything like that. But I came in and I'd seen something. Well, I didn't know where I'd seen it. I just watched, because back then I was flipping between Fox News and whatever's flipping around. I knew that they, but still I was going to see. Okay, what's their opinion? How are they doing it? They hadn't gone totally insane as the way they are now. But anyway, I came in. There was something on. It had to be probably on CNN. But anyway, I came in and I said to Roger, this guy, he was into computers in big time, and we had great talks together. Eventually, he came because Apple. He put a lot of money into Apple Computer, and then they made one of their changes where that was it. He couldn't upgrade his Apple computer. That was it. You know, it was apparently it was like Apple just told the people, well, tough, buy a new Apple computer, you know. And he switched. That pissed him off. They lost a good customer, but I guess they, you know, I don't think it hurt him. But anyway, I came in and I said, oh, Roger, I just saw a thing, and then I told him, you know, and he said, where did you see that? And I said, well, I don't remember. Well, you know, where did you see that? And I said, I don't remember, you know. And he says, was it on CNN? And I said, well, yeah, I watch a lot of CNN. Yeah, they lie, and I said, oh, God. So, anyway, this has been another, I don't want to talk about, I don't want to talk about guns anymore, and I don't want to talk about the NRA anymore, and I don't want to talk about the Republicans anymore. I don't want to hear I don't want to hear anything about Trump. And I just am sick and tired of the whole thing. And that's the problem. I think, you know, in a democracy, the whole idea, you know, is communications and, you know, getting together and working things, you know, working things out. And in the United States, that's not working. And it looks like in Europe, even in Europe, that things are, you know, they're more right-wing, you know, organizations. Let's see, was it Rudolph? Murdoch, the Australian. I think it was him. Maybe I'm wrong about this. But they said that he has, so maybe it was somebody else, but it's still a right-wing, you know, right-wing person. Autographed issue of my book of Mein Kampf, you know, autographed by Hitler, and other things like that. Now, you know, if you're a college professor, the right hates college professors. But I mean, if you're a college professor and you're teaching history, maybe you'll have, you know, some Nazi books, or maybe you'll have Mein Kampf or whatever on the, you know, the thing. And that's one of the little things, you know, I can see some gun owners who have a bunch of guns. I mean, some of these people, if you have the number of guns that sometimes the police come upon, you know, how they can afford them, I don't know. But that's where, you know, I could see guns are, you know, I used to be a welder, you know, metal, you know, and I can see wanting maybe to have a collection of certain, maybe, you know, maybe you want to have some Civil War, you know, muskets or whatever they were using at that time up on your wall and that type of stuff. But when you have assault rifles with bayonets and all this kind of stuff, your name needs to be circled. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to go circle your name.